everyone. Here we go. All right, I just wanted to welcome everyone to the Cultivating Mental Health Professionals Career Exploration Workforce panel. My name is Samantha Yang, and I will be helping facilitate the panel today. We have an amazing variety of people here to kind of speak to their experiences in their professions, and we're really excited to present this today. This is a recorded panel, and this is meant to be a resource for people to reshare and reference in the future. So it will be accessible on our website, and also you can reach out to either I or Pana for any additional questions you may have, or if you wanted to access that recording. So we are so excited to have all of our professionals here, as well as all of our visitors and those who are considering a career in mental health or just wanting to learn more about mental health careers. So we are so excited to get started. And if there are no logistical questions, then we can go ahead and move to the next slide. All right, I don't see any questions so far, so I'm sure we can get started here. We're going to start with introductions, so learning a little bit about our professional schools, licensures, and current careers. So we'll go down the line and start with Deja Chang.
Sounds good. Hi, my name is Deja Chang. I am a school psychologist in the Cudahy School District in the city of Cudahy. Background-wise, school, I went for my undergrad and graduate program at the UW Whitewater. And licensure specifically, I have my pupil services, a provisional license from the Department of Public Education or Instruction, specifically in school psychology. And then did you want a little bit more of the background that I work with, or yes? Okay, sounds good. So I am licensed to work from early childhood to 12th grade, but specifically I work in elementary, and the population that I work with is in Cudahy. So demographically, I work around 300 students, and 23% are about students with disabilities, and 64% are economically disadvantaged. We have a very high Hispanic Latinx population in where I'm servicing. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for sharing, Deja. Next, we'll hear from Emily Tao.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily. Currently now I'm a full-time student at UW Oshkosh in their professional counseling graduate program with a clinical mental health emphasis. So I had already obtained my bachelor's, and I also did that at UW Oshkosh. So my goal right now is to obtain full licensure as a licensed professional counselor and aftermarket program. And so currently now I work as a Lifeline counselor with 988 Wisconsin Lifeline in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Emily, for sharing. Next, we'll go on to Pam Yang.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Pam Yang. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I currently serve the central Wisconsin area. My undergrad, I did that at Upper Iowa University, and I majored in psychology. And then I went to Fresno Pacific University to do my marriage and family therapy program. Currently, so a lot of my background was doing a lot of community mental health. However, I'm a little burnt out by that right now. We can talk about that later. So I'm transitioning into private practice at this time.
Great, thank you. And next we'll hear from Jenny Zhang.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny. I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and I completed my master's degree through Walden University, which is an online program in Minnesota. And I completed, after graduating with my master's, I completed a one-year psych and mental health fellowship program in Milwaukee. And now I'm currently practicing as a psych and mental health nurse practitioner in Green Bay. And I work at Willow Creek Behavioral Health Hospital in Green Bay, and we get patients from almost anywhere from Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois. So a variety of patients from all over. I treat mental health disorders along with substance use disorders. And in regards to licensure, I am a state certified advanced practice nurse practitioner. And then I have my national board certification as a psychomental health nurse practitioner.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jenny. And now we'll go to Melissa Chong.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa. I completed my undergraduate and graduate degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then I obtained my licensure. Well, that was in social work. I obtained my LCSW, my licensed clinical social work degree, and then I've been practicing on an outpatient basis with some community mental health inpatient. Currently, I am at Mayo Clinic Health Systems in Eau Claire, working with the patients specific to Mayo Clinic.
Great. So as you all can see here, we have a very diverse group of talented individuals and professionals to speak on their experiences. And as I forgot to mention before, all of our participants feel welcome to jot down some of the questions you may have for individuals or for the panel, as we will have time in the middle and at the end of this panel to discuss those questions. All right, and we can move right along then. All right, so this next question is assessing pathways and what else we can do with your license. So for our professionals on here, feel welcome to raise your hand when you feel ready to answer the question, and we will go down the line. All right, I see Pam here, so we can start with Pam.
So for me personally, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I also do trainings. So currently I have a Hmong cultural competency training that I'm doing with local school districts and other professionals. I also host like marriage workshops, or I talk about communication, conflict resolution, self-care, just whatever I'm passionate about. I believe that I can also be like an adjunct instructor, like at a local technical community college. You can do that with a master's degree. And sometimes I will go into churches again to do like marriage workshops or seminars. I believe you can also be an author. So you can, if you're, passionate about writing, you can also write books. But that's about it for me. I will leave it up to the others to answer.
That's great. Did anyone else on the panel wanted to share some other things you can do with your licensure? All right, I see Melissa here.
So having a degree in social work, so my LCSW, my licensed clinical social worker, gives me a vast variety of options. If I wasn't doing psychotherapy and direct care, I could do just straight case management on a county level. I can work in nonprofit or private organizations, which is nice. That fluidity in my work does allow me to change that whenever I want to. I can provide supervision to other LCSWs as well too that are in training, which is really nice. And alongside Pam, provide workshops, lecture at local universities, et cetera, if I want to get into academia. Research, which is really nice, and that's also needed within the Hmong community. There's probably a lot that I'm missing. It's just that social work, again, is such a broad field that if you didn't want to do direct care, you could go into anything else too. So it's a very interpersonal career, I think. And so again, if I didn't want to do direct care and I wanted to back to the county or do inpatient care, I could do that as well too. So.
That's great. Thank you, Melissa. And I see Jenny here.
Yeah, so currently I am practicing in an inpatient setting as a nurse practitioner, so I can assess, evaluate, and treat mental health and substance use disorders with medications. I can also do therapy, but I cannot bill for it unless I have my 300 hours of being supervised from a licensed therapist. But in an outpatient setting, though, to get, the more bang for your buck, you can get that certification for your, conducting therapy with patients. And then you can also charge them for a medication follow-up appointment along with the therapy.
Thank you for that. And I see Deja as well.
Hi, so specifically geared towards my career path. As a psychologist, you can choose your specialty. So mine's in school. So I do have a limited option. I can be a school psychologist. However, you can choose which age range you want to work in. So you can use elementary or secondary, meaning middle school or high school. Overall, you are still licensed to work from EC to 12. And you do have the option to work not only in public school, but you can work in private school as well. But specifically, if you would like to teach school psychology as a professor or want to do private practice, you would have to do higher ed for it.
Great, thank you so much. And I think we have Emily here last. Did you have anything you want to share about what you can do with your license?
I hold a bachelor's of with a major in psychology right now, so I am pursuing LPC. And it would be it's in clinical mental health emphasis, so it'll be in community counseling. So I don't have a lot of experience yet, as I don't have licensure, but that's where I would want to go with that.
For sharing. Alrighty. And we can go on to the next question here. And this is, why did you choose your careers? Did anyone want to go first? All right. I see Melissa here first.
So I wanted to choose a career that I knew very little about. And to be frankly honest, when I was in my undergrad, mental health was still very new to me and then also seemed extremely challenging. So I forgot to mention, I also do substance use counseling, addictions recovery, and I also felt like I knew nothing about these specific domains in life. And it was, I'm either going to learn about it and struggle and then overcome it and work with people, or I'm just going to avoid this area of life forever. And I just felt, why not dive into it, because I know it's going to be beneficial for myself as well. So ultimately, that's why I did that. I really wanted to not just connect with my own community, but there was a lot of like self-reflection, and for me, it in the end was very beneficial. And I saw that, right? And so I wanted to choose something challenging and then also really rewarding as well. And I feel like I definitely did that. So
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. All right. I see Pam Yang here. Did you want to go next?
Yes. So for me personally, I feel like I kind of fell into the career. My brother passed away. It was the first person that someone very close to me died. And so it was really hard always being the person to support other people, and then not having anyone to really support me through the grief. And so I asked a lot of questions about life and how I wanted to be remembered. And I felt like I was just kind of at a standstill in my life. And so I got my bachelor's degree to just kind of understand what I was going through in grief, and just kind of why my family was becoming more and more fragmented instead of coming together after a death. And so I just did it really to find out more about myself. But I was a victim advocate for sexual abuse and domestic violence, working with survivors and victims. And I did that for about almost 3 years. And so I was seeing that there was a gap in services, because we were allowed to work with victims, but we weren't allowed to work with abusers and the perpetrators. And so for me, knowing the statistics, the victims usually go back. And so for me, just not being able to work with the other piece of the puzzle, it felt very limiting to me. And so my goal and passion is to help families. I don't condone violence by any means, but I wanted to have more preventative care and give these families the tools and the communication skills that they need before it gets to the violence or before it gets to tearing families apart, and also just seeing the impact that it had on the children. And so for me, I wanted to work on the other side of that.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your why you chose your career. All right, I see Deja here next. Did you want to go?
Yes, I can go next. It's kind of interesting. So I was introduced to my school psych in high school. I happened to walk into like our counseling area in high school my senior year, got introduced to him, and I was like, oh yeah, he's a school counselor. He's like, no, I'm a school psychologist. I'm like, what is that? I started picking his brain at a young age and found that the role was so diverse, very interesting. So when I went to college, I majored in psychology, found the right courses to take. When I say right, I mean like really specifically for education. There was this one class that really clicked and said, yes, this is what I'm going for. This is what I'm going to do and pursue. It was a class geared towards psych careers, and I was able to shadow and work under school psychologists for a local school district near UW Whitewater. I was doing everything she was doing, holding social groups, working with students, doing those behavior interventions. And that's when I said, yes, like this is what I'm doing. I want to work with kids. I want to see the growth in kids. And that's kind of how I end up where I am today. So just kind of walked into the high school like counseling area, met someone, and then I pursued it. And now I am doing what I love.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Deja. Next, I see Emily here.
Yeah, so I chose this career path. Like I've always had an interest in psychology, and then it would be more so of like my own experiences of encountering trying to find a counselor out in the community who looks like me, who would understand my story, and finding how difficult that was. I wanted to pursue more representation in our community and wanting to be that connecting link to for people who are struggling or who are lost and have like a loss of identity, and wanting to be that helper, and just like seeing young me struggle through that. I want to be a part of something that's out there and bigger that would reduce that stress and that experience that I've went through. And so that's where I am now. I did take a break after my bachelor's. I took like a 2-year break working at Winnebago Mental Health Institution, and from there on I knew that I wanted to work more with individual instead of like at a bigger system. And so that's why my journey right now is to become an LPC.
That's great. Thank you, Emily. And lastly, I think we have Jenny here. Jenny, did you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in nursing since 2012, and I knew that I always wanted to do like nursing since I was like 5 years old. But and I always knew that I wanted to climb as high as I can with my degree. So as I was creeping closer to my master's, I was trying to figure out exactly like what I wanted to specialize in. And mental health like really connected with me because I felt like kind of the same with everyone else. Like I had my own journeys, my own struggles that I couldn't seem to like figure out. And this was a way that I could have self-reflected as well, along with, seeing how everyone else in my family dealt with things. They didn't really talk much about mental health. And I found it to be challenging, and I like challenges. So I decided to go this route and learn more about this and why, exactly why do people deal with the ways deal with things the way that they do, just so I can learn more and just so I can also help people more. And I also, think that there is a growing need in this field. So I wanted to feel, a purpose in what I do, along with also expanding the amount of people in our ethnicity in this field so that we can have more young people seeking for help. But yeah, definitely the challenge of being in this field is what I wanted. And I feel like we get a unique relationship with patients in this field or our clients compared to being in like, the medical side of urology or cardiology or something like that. So Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I believe that would be everyone for this question. So the next one would be sharing kind of the salary ranges of the career that someone can expect. Assessing the current market is important for the competitive wages. So of course, feel welcome to share whatever you feel comfortable with. Who would like to go first for this question? All right, I see Emily here. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so like I said before, I'm a lifeline counselor. So this position starts at $20 an hour with a $3 differential on weekends and evenings. Of course, the wage is dependent on what degree one person may hold as well as expertise.
So, and I think I saw Melissa and Deja kind of come at the same time. So I'm gonna go with Deja first and then I'll go with Melissa next.
I will be as transparent as possible. Salary has changed and come a long way in education. So for a school psychologist, you can expect to get a pay of 60,000 and up for salary, but it's all dependent on experiences, licensure, certification, even stipends too, and also dependent on the school district and the area that you're kind of attracted to or wanting to kind of work at. And that can kind of give gear towards like how much you're going to make in a specific area. Like for example, you can make more in a specific school district, but you can be having much more responsibilities and a higher caseload comparing to maybe a sister city, which you'll have a smaller caseload and a lower salary. So expectations of starting will be 60,000 and up.
Thank you, Deja. And we'll go to Melissa next.
So anyone that knows social work knows that you're not doing it for the money when you go into it. Initially, really, when I started, it didn't pay very well at all. So it's not like going into it, I thought I was gonna be rich or anything. Starting probably off with your bachelor's, you're starting very low at about 40 or 50,000. And we know with how the economy is, that has climbed a little bit, but that is like what you can expect with your bachelor's. Like everyone else said, with experience, skills, and licensure, and then training for specific modalities in evidence-based care. And if you go into outpatient psychotherapy, you have the ability to build on that to hit a midpoint of 70 to 80. I would say if you are interested in having a higher salary, then you likely should go into something more administrative with your licensed clinical social worker into larger corporations, larger hospitals. Then you're likely to get somewhere even within the lower six figures as people who are, I think, well into this career have successfully climbed that ladder to make that much money. But again, it does take time. It's not something that you make right away with, being in your career for 5 or 6 years. So it takes a lot and a lot of build. And that's where I think patience is really important. But again, if you're planning to go into this and thinking you're making money, that really isn't going to be where it's at first. So.
Thank you, Melissa. And Pam, did you want to go next?
Yeah, so for me, my graduate school was in Fresno, California, and I was planning on staying there. I had gotten my associates, which is equivalent to an in-training license here in Wisconsin, and about over there, they were paying about $24 an hour. But I know that if you worked for like the state, I think if you were to do, like if you were seeing clients with severe mental illness, it would be, I think, equivalent to like social services, they're outpatient, then they paid a lot more. And so that was where the money was, having an in-training license. But I actually came back to Wausau, Wisconsin, and they started me at 24. But it's kind of hit or miss depending on if you work for a nonprofit, if you work for a government agency, and so forth. I would encourage you to challenge your employers. If you are bilingual, ask for that differential in the pay if you are speaking Hmong to your clients, because essentially that's saving them money from hiring an interpreter. Some of them may fight with you on that, and so you just have to consider if you want to work there. But I would say once you are licensed, so I would say as an in training, it's between I would say 49,000 to maybe 55. But once you are licensed, then it's like 58 to 65. But again, it just really depends on what agency you're working for, what they're offering, your expertise. But I would say going into private practice, if you're charging cash and you're seeing cash pay clients, you can make significantly higher.
And I'm last. So, so for as a nurse practitioner, it kind of depends too on your years of experience that you have. And I believe that there's not much of a difference between a nurse practitioner that holds a master's degree versus a doctorate's degree, but the pay on average is about $115,000 to I've seen highest of 150,000. But that kind of depends on the company too. For example, I'm working at an inpatient psychiatric hospital, but it's a for-profit program. It's not a nonprofit program, so they don't give me like a bank for for money to use on continuing education. They don't have as much as benefits as a nonprofit organization would. However, my pay is higher than an average nurse practitioner would get out there.
Thank you for sharing, Jenny. And thank you all for your transparency. We really appreciate it. All right, we can go on to the next question, which is, what does a day in the life look like? All right, I think I saw Deja first.
Hi, so this is a really good question. So one thing that I really appreciate about that my position is that I wear many hats in a school. So I'm not solely just doing one thing, I'm doing a variety of things. However, I will share that one of my main responsibilities is facilitating and testing for special education evaluations. So when those referrals come in for a suspected educational disability, I do facilitate those and do the testing of it. In addition to that, I do hold like SST meetings or student support meetings and to really talk with parents, families, teachers, and really come together to the table to discuss like interventions for behavior, social, emotional, academic needs. This is where we kind of go to a tiered system and have those discussions of what we're doing as a universal level at school. If that's not working at tier 2, what are we providing for the student? What kind of supports can we do universally? Because at the very end, that's where we'll talk about, okay, that's when we could refer for a suspected educational disability, but we have to put tiers in place, supports in place in order to get to that point. One of my favorite roles is consultation. That's my biggest piece right there. Is a lot of my day is made up of working with teachers, consulting. What can I do to meet the needs of the student, whether it's behaviorally, social, emotionally, self-management, self-reflection skills. The student is dealing with like anxiety, test anxiety. What strategies and skills could I put in place? What can parents do at home? I really enjoy those conversations because what we're doing is just to provide that support of how they can become the most successful at school. And I say in that way too, because there's not a perfect answer to everything. You know, we can't expect one thing to work for a student to work for the other student. And this is where you're kind of like, okay, let's try this. If this method is not working, let's try a different method. So I really like that piece of my job. Another one too is that I can hold individual or group counseling sessions or social skill sessions. I like these because you get to bring students together who are kind of engaging in the similar, I don't want to say deficit, but they're kind of dealing with the same problem. So we can group it together, show that your students are with you, your teachers are with you to support you, and we're going this together, we're pushing through together. So I really like holding that. And then a lot too with like behavior crisis interventions. I am on that main crisis team response team. So if anything significant occurs at the school building, I am responding to that, whether it's a school response or individual response with a student. And that's a lot of information, but it just kind of goes to show that I'm not just doing one thing. I'm always out and about doing something in my school, in my building, in my school.
Very nice. Thank you, Deja. Next, we'll hear from Jenny.
So I'll literally describe how a day looks like for me, but it actually really differs because it's an inpatient psychiatric hospital. So we get like, our average stay there is like 7 days. So our patient assignments could change. However, I usually get up around 5 a.m. I go in to work around 6, and I usually get there around like 6:30. I review patient charts for like a good hour, an hour and a half, depending on how many patients I get. And on average, I do get about 15 patients a day. And since I'm salary, I don't have a specific time that I have to leave by or come in by. I just have to be there at least by 8 a.m. But once I do finish reviewing charts, I can see some patients prior to 8 or else at 8 o'clock. What happens is we usually have team rounds where I meet with the therapists, social workers, psychologists, administration, and insurance. We call them our UR specialists, but our insurance representatives pretty much. And we discuss each patient case that is assigned to me. Um, After that, I usually then see the rest of my patients, and I'm usually done seeing patients around like 1 o'clock. However, there are days where I stay there until 5 p.m. and I still have to come home and finish my charting. So it kind of differs day to day. But it's super nice. I meet like about 4 different patients that are new to me every day, and then I follow up with like a certain amount of patients daily for my 7 days that I work. So I usually do 7 days on and then 7 days off. So but what I do is I usually assess, diagnose, and then treat mental health and substance use disorders, and collaborate with the team, and let them know what the patients would like fit into the schedule, whether it's like a day treatment programming or substance use, finding a substance use specific counselor or getting them into residential treatment. I collaborate a lot with the social workers and the therapists to discuss like what we can do for them to get them ready to be on an outpatient care basis. So
Thanks so much, Jenny. All right, I think I saw Melissa next.
Sorry about that. So I'm currently a part of integrated behavioral health through Mayo Clinic Health Systems. So I'm a part of primary care, and the therapists there are a branch off of the physicians. So we have constant referrals and collaborations with our physicians in that department, and we see their patients. The model is supposed to emphasize direct and quick care. So right now, access to care is pretty horrible. I'll just say it. Wait lists are probably 6 months out. So seeing me after seeing your physician gets you in a lot sooner. A lot of behavioral activation is enforced or encouraged within this program. So when I get to work roughly around 8 o'clock, I am attending rounds, a morning huddle with my team, which includes other disciplinaries. So nursing, PAs, the physicians, et cetera, to just provide brief updates with each discipline. And then I'm off to see patients for the day. We can get what's called warm handoffs. So if a physician is seeing a patient who is identifying some mental health concerns or substance use concerns, and if I'm available, then I get pulled in, and that warm handoff allows us to create that bridge to care for them to come see me and to schedule something. We know that window can be really short. So if I have that opportunity, I do like to go in there and assess and then schedule them with me. I don't do crisis, so we do want to differentiate between the two. So alongside that, if I'm not supporting the physicians, then I am seeing patients. I have the ability to start a group. I just haven't done that yet. I have just transitioned to this role in the past year. Prior to that, I was just doing outpatient in our outpatient psychiatry and psychology. And that I was just strictly seeing patients back to back for about 8 hours a day. So it's a huge change in role going from seeing back-to-back patients about 5 to 10 a day to having some more mixed roles, which I do enjoy a little bit more too. So that's kind of in a nutshell what my day looks like.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Next, I saw Pam.
Yeah, so I'll talk about kind of my previous employer because I think that was a little more structured than what I'm doing now. So I was salaried, and our productivity, we had to see at least 5 clients a day. And so with that, we're scheduling 6 to 8 clients just to make up for any cancellations or no-shows. So the whole day just consists of seeing clients and documentation, and what you're doing in session is really dependent upon if you're doing an initial intake assessment, what you're currently working on, what the client's goals are. And so sometimes I would be doing EMDR with sessions. Other times it's just the initial intake session. And so again, it just really depends on the client and what they're working on. Occasionally I would step out to do mental health workshops or seminars, but that was something that I really advocated for. So not everyone may like doing presentations or education, and then that may not be part of your role. But if that is something you're interested in, I would talk with your employer to see what their ideas are surrounding that, and if they would allow you to go to places to do workshops. And then I also was given the opportunity to see clients at the school. However, I declined that. But if you do like working with children, there will be opportunities for you to be like, not maybe not 100% school-based, but maybe like 1 or 2 days a week, you can go into like the high school or the middle school or elementary and offer services there.
That's great. Thank you so much, Pam. And lastly, I think we have Emily.
Yeah, so as a Lifeline counselor, a day in life would be different. Primarily we are picking up calls from the suicide hotline. For Wisconsin Lifeline, though, we only could pick up calls from Wisconsin phone numbers. But in a day, it's a mix of different things. We're working in a team with other call counselors. We're attending team meetings and completing supervision hours. We also provide like referrals, and we work with outside agencies, collaborating with our callers too when they call in. We also engage in continuing education, and then we're also typing up clinical documentation for each call as well that comes in. At times we may also call for rescue, and then on average a counselor would answer 10 to 15 calls per shift.
Thanks so much, Emily. And I believe that is everybody for this question, so we can move on to the next one. And that is, what is the most challenging and rewarding part of your job? All right, let's hear from Melissa.
I would have to say the most challenging part of my position, because I do work with a lot of folks who have trauma, very complex trauma, is that compassion fatigue that comes along with it inevitably. It's also a reward in that sense, a reward to sit alongside this like healing journey with them. But as just a human myself, sitting and listening to it for an hour, you want to cry a lot of the times because you're hearing them relive a lot of these events, and they're coming in to say, I need you to help me with it. And so it's this like trust, right? Is this stranger you probably just met on the first day that you're saying, I need help. And you have to, again, like parallel and work with them. So part of that can be really difficult because for you, you have to be mindful again of that compassion fatigue that comes along with it, or secondary trauma that comes with it from you. And then being able to like objectively work with them and not getting your feels too much. But again, there's that reward that comes out of it too, because over time when you work with them, you see how well they do, or their ups and their downs, and you become like one of their people to outsource and to utilize. So it's pretty neat in that sense too.
Thanks for sharing, Melissa. Let's hear from Pam next.
I think for me, the most challenging and rewarding part is similar. It's kind of one and the same. It's working with clients. And so, feeling the honor and privilege to walk along someone, for them to share some of the most vulnerable details of their life, secrets and things that they've been carrying. That is really rewarding, and being able to just sit with them and let them be seen and heard and understood. That in itself is a privilege. And then especially when you're seeing progress, right? When you're seeing maybe some of the negative cognitions changing, or, if they think they can't do something and they are, just seeing them evolve and heal is amazing. However, I feel like when clients are not making as much progress or maybe as quickly as we like them to, it can be really hard because sometimes you have imposter syndrome where you're questioning yourself, like, what am I doing wrong? Should they be sent to another therapist? Motivated clients are going to be a lot more enjoyable to work with, I would say. I mean, some people might like challenging clients, but for me personally, those who are committed, who are motivated, who come in, they talk about their stuff, they're taking the skills, they're using them. Those are enjoyable, but just, yeah, it's just really hard when you have clients who don't really want to change, or who they're not really looking for insight or doing anything differently, or if they want to blame everyone for their problems. And I get that, but it's just really hard feeling stuck. Like if their depression symptoms are getting worse, or the suicide ideation isn't going away, then that can be hard, just questioning, what's the best for this client.
Thank you, Pam. I think I saw Emily next.
Yeah, the most challenging part working in this hotline is just hearing the hard stuff call after call, really. We are a crisis hotline, and so you just don't know what you'll be getting yourself into when you pick up that phone. And so it can become very overwhelming when all we hear is pain and hurt and vulnerability from our callers for hours, in our shift. However, though it is rewarding to hear, like, when we are able to just de-escalate and we are able to hold that space for them to listen. They really are calling for a connection at that time, and so just being able to be there and then hearing their voice getting better, like getting more calm, and or they hear, or like I hear them laugh, or we're able to instill hope again for them. That is really rewarding. Then again, the challenging part is we just don't know where the call is gonna go. They have the opportunity to end the call with us anytime, and if there's no risk and harm or anything like that, it's really hard, but wonder if they're gonna be okay. And so yeah, that's the challenging part of it, really.
Thanks so much, Emily. I think I saw Jenny next.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. I agree with what Melissa, Pam, and Emily say. I'd say, yeah, it's initially with my job, and this is my first time working in an inpatient setting. So everyone that's coming in is in imminent danger to themselves or in crisis. And it's really difficult to hear a lot of the stories that some of my patients tell me. Like I've had nightmares before when I first started this job in regards to patients' past traumas. But you kind of just have to learn how to draw that boundary with your job, and deciding that you're not supposed to take the stuff home. But I feel like it's also very rewarding at the same time, because this is like the first time that some of these patients have ever opened up about these things, and it takes a lot of courage for them to be able to do that. And so it's also rewarding that they are able to share that with me comfortably. um, and I also agree with the not seeing progress and patients still feeling suicidal. And that's when we really have to then work on challenging our patients and trying to get them figure out, along with us, what can we do to continue making progress, or what is going wrong here that we need to step forward. And I think that's like the most rewarding part, is when we have these conversations with them and they actually lighten up and gain a bit more insight, and try to, and they're more futuristic and try to work towards, living a better quality of life. So
That's great. Thank you so much for that. All right, Deja, did you want to go next?
Yes, I can go next. So I'll start with the challenging piece of my job. I think So I'll start with this. I think that social emotional learning piece, that self-awareness piece, emotional management is such an important skill to teach a child or children at the elementary age, and not even elementary, all students. It's so important and it's challenging because I wish I can hold more individual counseling sessions, but there's just not enough time. The fact that the school psych ratio to children is one psych per 500 to 7 students, and I just can't reach all of them. And that's the most challenging part because you want to go and build those relationships. You want to go in classrooms, but you kind of take those with a higher need or at risk students first before you hit everyone at a universal level. So that's probably the hardest part is I want to work with everyone. I'm not able to. I wish there's more time, but there's not. But something rewarding is really seeing the students grow. Like, I think it's all about growth. And I think I heard that in everyone's um, feedback is because we're so data driven that we see students and our clients grow, and it's like, oh my goodness, they're utilizing the skills we taught them independently, and that's like the aha moment, like, yes, you don't really need me anymore, but I still want to work with you. And that's what drives me. That's the rewarding part, is that I am doing my job and they're doing their job independently to try every single day, and that's a great piece of the job, and I really like that. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. I believe that was everyone. So what does the stress toll look like for your job? I know we kind of touched a little bit on this in the past questions, but if anyone wanted to kind of reiterate a little bit about the stress toll. Deja?
I can go and just reflect about what I just said too. So depending on the school district, the stretch told is that the school psych might be the only mental health professional in the staff building or in the elementary building or whichever building you are. So currently, right now, it's a new adjustment for me, but I am the only mental health professional in my building. So I have a high demand of me. So I'm not only just working with my students, I'm working with staff who may need that additional support too. And again, I can't really divide all my time equally because I'm so needed everywhere. However, you can have the privilege of having the school counselor, the school social worker, and the school psych in one building. And that's a dream team. Absolutely. I wish we can have all of that in a school, but unfortunately, that's just not possible for most school district. So I think that can put a higher stress level on me because now I'm kind of like a dual try role now. Not only am I just a school psych, I'm also the social worker and the school counselor in my building. So that's where the makeup of my job looks like right now.
All right. And Emily, did you want to go next?
Yeah. So the stress toll looks like when there's like an overwhelming high volume of calls coming in. And so that's when it's like you're not really feeling supported to meet these calls, or like I become really stressed when a call come in and I'm still on a call with a caller and we're focused on that one caller, but then you see those numbers come up and they come up and they go and then they come up again. And so this becomes overwhelming because then you don't have time in between these calls to process and to let go of the call that you had previously to move on and take care of the next call then. And so that, yeah, that can be very overwhelming for sure.
All right. Yeah, and I think it was Pam next that I saw.
Yeah, so I think the stress toll can vary just depending on what's in front of you. And so when you're starting in a new place and you're building your caseload, if you have 5 or 6 intakes a week, it's going to take you longer to do documentation. And so for that particular week, documentation might be very stressful. I would recommend, and your clinical supervisor should be keeping an eye on this, but it's really important for you to have like physical boundaries, mental boundaries and all of that. But if you're starting out, you don't want like more than 3 high-risk clients on your caseload. So you don't want, if they're decompensating, you don't want 5 clients calling you saying that they want to kill themselves. So depending on what you're working with, client-wise on the various diagnoses, that can be really stressful. Or if you're working with someone with severe mental illness or personality disorders, that can be really stressful. So I think day to day, it's just gonna depend, and then balancing like your personal life with the work life too. So, and then also making sure you have support, making sure your clinical supervisor is supportive, making sure there's no workplace toxicity, just not, getting involved with that if there is. So those are just some things that I want to point out.
Thank you, Pam. Next is Jenny.
I would say that honestly, I could have never imagined a better supported job. Like we have a great team, so it's like I would say the stress here is manageable. There are some days though, like I said, where I do go in early to review my charts, but then I stay there like 12 hours because there's some patients that they just really need someone to listen to them. And sometimes it's okay to just sit there and listen to the patients for like 2 hours because they're in an inpatient setting for a reason. So I do have days where I don't come home till like 6 p.m. and I stay there for 12 hours and I still have to do charting at night to get it over with. However, I don't chart like the specific things that my patients tell me. I just keep it very general, and I don't do like the psychosocial because my therapists are there, my social workers are there, they already chart all that. So I just do my very basic biological assessment of everything. So it's not too bad at all. And then definitely like learning learning how to work with the staff that are with you, making sure that I'm collaborating with my case managers and my therapists, reaching out to them to, to have them reach out to family members to get collateral information from family or whatever it is, or to set up appointments for patients outpatient. I definitely am good at delegating. So I definitely will not be a social worker and a therapist because I probably won't do a good job on that. So I think it's pretty easygoing though at my place. I feel like everyone knows what they have to do, and I can just usually reach out and ask them to complete what they can do, and it's not that bad. So besides the days where I just have to stay a bit longer to listen to patients, I think it benefits them though. So it's definitely worth my time. So
Thank you, Jenny. And I believe we have Melissa last.
Yeah, so I love my position right now. I have a really supportive team with many different disciplinaries. Other therapists that are in this model with me are awesome. They always advocate for me and for each other. So I really enjoy that. And I think for me to effectively do my job, I do have to have support from a team. As much as I do like working independently, bouncing ideas and stress and staffing and consulting is really important in my role, especially since I share a lot of mutual patients with physicians. In my previous position, again, I was seeing back-to-back patients all day, and the expected direct patient care or number of patients we were expected to see a week was 35 out of our 40-hour work week, which I think is not tolerable for anybody. I think that's very unhealthy. It leads to pretty quick burnout, and I would never recommend that. But I found when I did that, I would try to find time to squeeze to go to the bathroom, or I was hoping someone would cancel so I could eat lunch, and that just it's not fair having that perspective. When you're burnt out, you're not providing good direct care. So shifting models has been really helpful for me because I'm, again, not fighting to eat and to get a break. And I know that makes me a better clinician and provider to the people that I see. Of course, there's like inevitable stress that we face. So working with a lot of different disciplines, they don't know your exact role and think that you are unlimited in things that you can do. So establishing boundaries and being consistent with that is pretty important to know. No, I can't assess for autism and clinically diagnose that, right? Or I can't call insurance companies because they often think because I do have social work in my title that I'm primary case management, and that also is incorrect too. So it's taking a lot of just education in that sense and then consistently so people can respect you and then know your boundaries within the workspace too.
Melissa. All right, we can go to the next question now, and that is question and answer time. So for our participants, after hearing a little bit about all of our professionals' experiences, did you have any additional questions? And you can write them into the chat. You can chat them directly to me or Pana. And I'll leave like a minute here. And I suppose we can start with the first question that we got. This one says, what keeps you grounded and inspired? So whoever wants to share, they can raise their hand. Alyssa, did you want to go first?
Yeah. Hi, Meg. I wanted to say hi. I saw that question was from her. Several things keep me grounded. I have to say a big one is my identity as a mother. So that was a huge reality check for me in knowing that like I have to be so present with my children to be a good mother and like human overall. And so that's constant like checking myself and awareness to my responses, my reactions, and how I'm just mirroring these back to them because these little tiny humans are constantly looking at me. And it doesn't matter if they know how to talk or not, is they are absorbing everything that I'm doing, even if it's direct or indirect, right? So that's helpful. Just I'm literally my own inspiration. I constantly want to grow. Being grounded just in myself is helpful. Is what am I doing on a daily basis to constantly connect with myself to make sure that I am managing my stress well. So those I guess are two main ones for me. I think I answered the question. I guess I don't know if I veered off or not, Sam.
No, that was great. Thank you, Melissa. All right, did anybody else want to share what keeps you grounded and inspired? If not, we can move on to the next question. All right. What are 3 things that you do to decompress? Oh, Pam, did you want to answer either question you can answer?
Yeah, so for me, it's really helpful to talk to my colleagues and talk to, coworkers, clinical supervisors, because of confidentiality, we can't go home and tell our husbands or friends or sisters about anything, right? And so just having that strong network of support, people who really understand you as a clinician, and we have all types of clients that walk through the door, right? And not that we badmouth clients, but sometimes it's just helpful to say, clients can say really hurtful things to us, right? So just being able to talk with other people who know exactly what you're going through is helpful. I think what helps me stay inspired is just knowing that it really is so beneficial for somebody to be seen, right? To be seen for the wholeness of them, whether it's their identity as a mother, as a person of color, whatever they identify, for you to be able to see the whole part of them, the wholeness of them, and then having them be seen and heard. And then for me, just to decompress, just things like prayer is going to be really important to me. Painting and making sure that I'm getting my hobbies in, so that taking care of ourselves so that we can be there for everyone else, right? Our clients, our families. So, and then just having those boundaries, I'm still working on that. But again, like I stated earlier, just having mental boundaries, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries. If you're talking to clients all day and your sister wants a call and have you be her therapist, sometimes you've got to say no, right? Or you have to find other ways around it.
That's great. Thank you, Pam. Did anyone else want to share what are 3 things that they do to decompress? You can raise your hand. Otherwise, we can move on to the next question. Melissa, did you want to share? Oh, I think you're still muted.
Sorry, it's so finicky. I think that question probably came in after I answered Ming's first question, but I'm like a huge practice what you preach person. And as a therapist, we're constantly telling our patients like self-care, self-care, but that doesn't matter if like we aren't doing it ourselves. So like for me personally, I try to be outside as much as I can. I love fresh air. And any type of like physical movement. So it doesn't have to be like strenuous or anything, or just a walk with my family that's what I have found the best to really decrease my own stress, is being able to connect with my body. So having that, focusing, I guess, on my somatics, right? So that's kind of my practice, but that's what I've really enjoyed doing, and what's worked for me too is like fueling my body and then listening to it. And then of course, decompressing also means rest. So knowing when it's time to rest as well, and not trying to go into overdrive too.
That's great. And I also wanted to share, there's a message saying, hello, beautiful, talented ladies. Thank you for your time. So that's for everyone there too. The next question says, well, thank you for the insightful discussion. I apologize I came in 30 minutes late, so I'm asking this in case it wasn't answered. And that is, what advice you have for someone who's looking for a career change as an aspiring therapist or just in general in the mental health field? I have my bachelor's under the business school, but under my current role has really opened my eyes in this world of mental health and therapy, and it really caught their attention. I'm thinking about going back to school, but what jobs and experiences would you recommend for someone who wants to broaden their knowledge in the world of therapy? Does anyone want to answer this question? All right, Pam, did you want to answer?
Yeah, so I would say kind of think about what audience really speaks to you. And so for example, if you want to work with people who are depressed, volunteering, doing QPR training, I know WACMA is offering that, or doing what Emily is doing. If you want to work with victims of sexual assault, you could be an advocate or even volunteer in a shelter, offer crisis calls, or I know here in Central Wisconsin, you can, I don't know the exact term, but when a sexual assault victim goes to the emergency room and they get their rape kit done, you can kind of be there to support them. So again, just think about what audience you really want to work with, and then try to get some volunteer experience working with that population so that you can see if this is something you want to do. Yep, so
That's great advice. Thanks, Pam. Melissa, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, hands down, I would say please do inpatient psych at some point in your career. That was life-changing for me. I started off as a social worker in inpatient psych, not knowing what to expect, and it turned my whole life and practice around to see people at their absolute lowest there involuntarily. And that is where you're going to get that experience. I learned how to accurately diagnose and see patients going through mania, their first psychotic break, de-escalation. It was scary, it was challenging, it was rewarding, and I will never forget it. I learned about different disciplinaries and the importance of collaborative care in that sense, in the importance of discharge and crisis work. And that was all skills that I learned while being in an inpatient setting. So if you can get any kind of experience in there, whether that is volunteer or if that is, doing groups there as an intern, whatever, I will die on that hill. It is like inpatient psych. So do that if you can get that experience or that opportunity as well.
That's great. Thanks, Melissa. All right, the next question says, what is one major gap you see students struggle with in this field, and what can we do to help? So I'm assuming this is like students in the mental health field, but you can clarify if that wasn't what you're asking, Ming. Does anybody have anything to answer that question with? Pam?
I don't know if I getting the question right. It says, what is one major gap you see students struggle with in this field? So personally for me, when you're going to school, your colleagues, your counterparts are not, they may not be Hmong. And so it might be difficult being the only person of color with your colleagues. You may see things differently. So yeah, that's just, there's a lot of, like for me, I experienced a lot of microaggressions. So just not having a particular support network for people who look like you and who have the same like background and understanding. So that's what I struggled with being in that field, because if I was doing practicum and a client treated me differently based on the color of my skin, I couldn't go back to like my, you know, my Caucasian counterparts and say, oh, I felt this way. I mean, I could, but you just wouldn't be as understood if it was someone who had a similar experience.
Thanks, Pam. Melissa, did you want to add on to that?
I would have to say not having enough, like, so I'm thinking of when I was in school and what I struggled with was going into my field. My internships, I guess, I didn't see anybody that looked like me, so that was like the really hard part was like I was studying under people who didn't understand my population and mental health needs there. There was no like paved path. And I wish I would have had supervision with among LCSW who identified as a woman. I think that definitely would have shifted my career a little bit more. So I know that's something that's out of my control. When I was a student, it's not like I could have just waved a magic wand for that to appear. But now that there are so many more of us in the field, is giving the opportunity to supervise these graduate and undergraduate folks. And I think that's awesome. Just a plug for like Pam's group. She hosts, I think it's monthly, for providers to meet, and that's awesome. So even things like that where there's like a lot of collaboration among a lot of us is helpful, but then setting and leading for them as well too is I probably would have liked that a lot more. And I want to say Welcome Out or Project Resiliency is kind of working on that. So steps are being made, I think, and so yeah.
All right. Thank you all for your questions. I did see one more pop up in about connecting the future, and at the end we can definitely address that question as well. We do have 20 minutes left and about 2 questions in this next portion. And of course, I believe Pana and I are open if anybody has additional questions for an email, and we can always reach out to our professionals here to help answer those questions as well. So we will move on then to our next question, which is, what keeps you driven in this career? Jenny, did you want to start us off?
Yep. Yeah. So with being a nurse practitioner, I practice medicine and treating mental health disorders and substance use disorders. So I would say the field of medicine just growing is very interesting. And so it definitely keeps me going, with learning more and more in regards to the new medications that are being developed and how we can use that to help treat mental health disorders. So um, learning more about that, along with not knowing as much of psychotherapy modalities, like that also keeps me going to just learning more too, and keeps me inspired. Along with being around so many colleagues too, it also keeps me going and makes me want to keep learning more and more and more. So that's what keeps me driven in this career.
Thanks, Jenny. Deja, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add some pieces. So just two pieces. I mean, one, especially on those hard days, I really want to think about my win-wins, right? Like when those hard days, you're like, no, I don't want to go back to work. But you really have to think about your win-wins and your success stories because that's what really drives you. And then the second part of my answer is I'm going to be as transparent as possible. Go shopping. So I'm in educational, right? I mean, like go shopping for school districts. Go shopping, compare the jobs because even schools within 10 minutes with each other may have different visions and mission statements and practices in what they're really implying and what they want. And it could be the difference of 5 to 10 minutes. Go shopping, look, because remember, although you're working for them, like you also have to enjoy that position. And if what they're doing aligns with your morals and practices, then that could be a good fit for you too. When you go to interviews, right? They're not just interviewing you, you're interviewing them. Is it a good match? That's very, very important and keen in this process. Um, and lastly, transparent possible, the benefits. That's what drives me too. I get my summers off. I will absolutely talk about what I do in my summer every single year to motivate you to join the team. I get my holidays off, great insurance, 401k match. So that's also a big win-win in this field. So come to the school psych side, y'all.
Very nice, Deja. All right. Melissa, did you want to add?
I love that transparency. You're so funny. I'd have to say I like that I can influence change on like the micro, meso, and macro levels. So I love being a social worker because again, I can head into I'm a part of a couple of state committees. So I'm a part of the governor's state committee of alcohol and other drug abuse, and that's at a larger level, right? So we're working on, this is new, we're working on how to implement and bridge care, AODA care with underserved populations. Like how freaking cool is that? That like I can be part of growth and my, what feels like a little voice is a part of a team that like we get to build on top of that stuff of other BIPOC providers. So that really drives me. It's just like the power to change because I think as a Hmong woman for the 32 years I've been alive, I've always been put, and I'm sure all of you guys can probably relate, that we're put in these really submissive and oppressive roles, right? That change can't happen or we can't enforce that. And this is, I think me participating in that is like, it encourages me, right, to come back and say, you know, you were wrong and I can do it. And it had nothing to do with, well, I guess it had everything actually to do with that I'm also a woman, but that I had that power and voice to change too. So that really drives me. And then that fire also transfers to my workplace. And for me to look at what change also has to happen there so that people who look like me when they come there, they're receiving the best care that my counterparts are giving them, which we know right now are predominantly white as well. So that kind of spreads, I guess, everywhere, that fire and that passion. But yeah.
All right. And then I think Pam, you had your hand up too.
I did, thank you. So for me, I think not enough clinicians in our world are really taking advantage of their own therapy. And so for me, just like how Melissa was saying earlier, practicing what you preach, we have to believe in it. If we're offering services, we should be accessing services as well, right? And so oftentimes you're going to find that you're doing parallel processing with your clients. And so sometimes your clients are going to talk about things that trigger you or that you can so relate with, and you're tempted to say, yep, I'm going through that too. So just doing your own work. And then I firmly believe that you can't take a client where you're not willing to go. And so if you have not grieved a death in your family and they're coming to you and they're saying, this person just passed away, your defense mechanisms are going to go against that because you're not going to want to go there. And clients are going to be able to tell if you can't go there. And so for me, that keeps me going is to do my own work in healing so that I can be the best person in front of my client so that they can, I can hold the space for them, right? The container for them to do their healing. I would say school loans is something else that keeps me driven. So just seeing how much I owe, like those dollar signs keep me driven. But yeah, just, again, definitely the parallel processing. I firmly believe that God sends you who you need to work with, because sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't know that was a trigger. Now I got to go back and do my own work because I need to be able to help them through theirs. So I have so many clients who struggle with boundaries and people pleasing, and that's something that I'm overcoming. So it's just really awesome to see that, to see you getting through it. And then sometimes your clients are even gonna have advice that they've done that helps you. And it's a secret. They don't know that. They don't know that they're also helping you. And maybe giving you the courage to step out and make some changes too.
That's great, Pam. We have one last question here, and it is, how do you envision mental health to be like in the future? Or maybe what do you hope it'll look like in the future? All right, Pam, did you want to start us off?
Yes, I would like mental health services to be more normalized. For us to be like, yeah, I saw my therapist today. Oh, great. How did that go? Was it helpful? Not having any stigma or shame attached to it. I would like seeing our Hmong folks accessing services at the rate of their population. So you've probably heard me say this and you're going to hear it again. If Wisconsin has, let's say, 20% of the population is Hmong, then in our caseload, we should be seeing 20% of our caseload be Hmong too. So again, that's something that keeps me driven because the older generation, they might not understand the benefits of mental health. But the younger generation, I think they are. And, in the Hmong community, we're taught to internalize, we're taught to just handle it ourselves, right? Not tell anybody about our egg. So I really would like to see, especially our Hmong folks, accessing the services and not feeling ashamed about it.
That's great, Pam. Melissa, did you want to add on?
Yeah, so similar. I want it to be accessible, affordable. I want it to be acknowledged. I want it to be everywhere that people are so sick of hearing the word mental health. Similar to how we are pushing for yearly physicals with physicians, that is how often that should also be had with mental health checks, right? And so continuing these dialogues and in doing that in households, it should feel like Pam was saying, right? We're removing shame, that this is just something that we're having with our kids on a daily basis, that validation, holding space for them. So I think we're headed in the right direction just with the movement that we've seen through WACMA. So I'm really happy about that. That gives me a lot of hope that we're doing so much exposure, education, and outreach, and now having this warm line. I mean, that all happened in such a short amount of time. So to predict what could still happen the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to just the broader Southeast Asian community is really, the sky is just the limit at this point. So I'm not limiting it in any sense, but I'm really excited to see with all of our brains put together how much more we can continue to expand this dialogue with our community.
That's great, Melissa. And I think I saw Emily next.
Yeah, I agree with normalizing mental health in the future and just having it to be like talked about, like the dialogue that you were saying, Melissa, how like mental health be introduced to our children and how limited mental health resources are out there for kids and for minors, and especially in their crisis line of things in mental health, and having that accessible and those resources for kids and how we can protect them and have them learn about their mental health. I see that, yeah, we are going there, but the time is very slow for sure. And so I would like to see a lot of that mental health part within like the kids.
Great, Emily. And Deja, did you want to share as well?
Yes, I'll share a little. If I can use one word, I would say accepted. I mean, everyone did a really good job at sharing their answers too. And it's truly being accepted of the mental health, what that looks like, understanding the indicators of mental health. And I'm going to speak specifically in the educational lens too, that I see it being taught more in schools, and we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. It's being taught more at the universal level, but what does that even mean, right? We are getting there. I'm seeing that students are going to adapt to the practice, see those indicators, use your strategies, use your coping strategies. In addition to that, I'm really hoping that mental health will be treated equally as much as academics in school. It is just as important. So that's what I'm really hoping for the educational world.
That's great. All right, so that was the last question that we had. And then we did have additional questions from our participants asking about how to stay in contact with these professionals or get connected. And the best thing I would suggest for anyone looking to get connected with our panelists or ask additional questions is to message Pana via email, who organized this panel here, and she can do a warm handoff. So the email is in the chat here, pana@wokma.org. All right, so to end off, we really just want to thank everyone for joining us today. We want to thank our professionals for all of your valuable experiences. We are just so thankful to have a diverse set of experiences, and we are thankful for your time, as well as our participants for joining us today. Upon exiting the Zoom window, a survey will appear. Please take the survey to let us know what it was like for you. We really consider this feedback for every event and our future and current work. And then we also have a few events coming up with WACMA. Things to consider when working with Hmong clients, that is hosted by Pam here, that is on our panel, as well as domestic violence in the Hmong community event that is also hosted by Pam. We also have a virtual peer support with Project Resiliency on October 6th, and you can message Pazong at wakma.org for that information as well. So those are a few save the date. And if there are no additional questions after that, we just thank everyone for joining us, and we hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable evening. Thank you. Oh, Melissa, did you have something to add? Sorry.
I talk so much. Someone had in the email you guys had sent, someone asked about how to keep up with evidence-based practices. So I wanted to just quickly address that. I don't know if the person's on here still, but I would recommend you can reference the APA website, which is the American Psychological Association. They do have information on what is strongly recommended and what's conditionally recommended. And then Mayo Clinic, I'm biased, but it's a good source for really evidence-based. And then, of course, National Institute of Mental Health, NIMH, as well, too. So there's a lot of good publications out there that support what's evidence-based to use in your own practice if you'd like. So yeah, I don't know if that person's in here. I don't think I had a name, but just in case they are, I was reading Panav's comment. But yeah, all right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. And like I said, any additional questions from panelists or even from our participants, please feel welcome to message Pana via email, and we will get you all connected. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. We really appreciate it, and we hope you have a good night.